What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the October 7th, 2024 edition of Raw Talk. So I was very excited going into Raw on Monday, knowing it would be a return to the 2-hour format. And I thought overall it was a good show. Not a great show, but they kind of packed their shit in there, got it over with within 2 hours, not a whole lot of filler, and I enjoyed it for what it was. What I honestly forgot about, and I may have mentioned this a few weeks ago here on this review, and in reviewing Raw Talk, was how, and didn't really think about it until watching this episode, how would it affect Raw Talk itself? If Raw goes from a 3-hour show to a 2-hour show, you would think they would have less to talk about. In fact, they expanded the show to be almost an hour fucking long. Now, Raw Talk on average was around 25 to 30 minutes, which makes sense. I mean, SmackDown Lowdown's the same thing. But that's exactly it. SmackDown Lowdown recaps a 2-hour show. SmackDown Lowdown is, and always has been, around 25 to 30 minutes. I know why, but to theoretically expand a show from 25 to 30 minutes, recapping a 3-hour Raw, and then expanding it to shortening Raw to a 2-hour show, and expanding Raw Talk to an hour-long show, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, again, I know why they did it. They probably want to fill that third hour and kind of make it feel like you're not really missing anything. It kind of feels like that third hour, well, if you're not spending it watching Raw, you can spend it watching Raw Talk, everyone. Well, guess what? It felt even more inconsequential than it usually does. And honestly, this might be where I draw the line after 4 fucking years of watching Raw Talk. And if I stop watching Raw Talk, I'll probably stop watching SmackDown Lowdown as well. But they put most of the interviews that we heard here on the show on YouTube, which is what they typically do anyway. But it kind of felt like they had some Raw Talk exclusive interviews, like with the Final Testament and the New Day. And then they had, or maybe not even the New Day actually, Final Testament and like American Made. But the interviews they aired on the show with Jey Uso, the New Day, and I think the Sheamus one as well. Those were Raw exclusive. It's weird how this is all broken down, and I apologize if this sounds confusing. But WWE.com, their YouTube channel, Twitter, whatever, their social media pages will air these exclusive interviews after Raw is over, but they won't air on Raw Talk. Now, because Raw Talk's an hour, they want to fill this show with as much shit as possible, so they'll put those clips on here as well, and then not really differentiate them from the Raw Talk exclusive interviews. So like the Final Testament interview, the, what was the other one? American Made, like I said. That shit is not on YouTube. So they're not really making that clear. It's really fucking confusing. This was just a whole lot of nothing, this show. Again, I'll break it down this week. I'll probably break it down for the rest of the year, hoping that it goes back to being 25 to 30 minutes in the beginning. That's 3 months away. In the beginning of 2025, I can't say that I'm excited for Raw to go back to 3 hours. But if it means Raw Talk going back to 25 to 30 minutes, I might just deal with it. But we'll see. I'm not really sure. I don't know if I really want... I didn't watch the show in full like this. I mean, Raw I did. But like Raw Talk itself, I skipped through the fucking commercials, the replays, which is what I normally do anyway. There were so many fucking replays and commercials on this episode of Raw Talk, it was ridiculous. Again, like I said, this might be where I draw the line, and I do not watch Raw Talk anymore. SmackDown Lowdown would go with it, but at least SmackDown Lowdown is still shorter, to my knowledge. I mean, last week's show was 25 to 30 minutes, but it's never been a 3-hour show. Raw or SmackDown's always been a 2-hour show. Might soon be 3 hours on USA starting in January, reportedly. We still don't know about that. But, yeah, man, a 57-minute long episode here, complete with commercials and bullshit that I just don't give a fuck about. I don't know if I could deal with that every week. The third hour of Raw is one thing. At least this shit doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. It's never really mattered. But the problem with the idea that I proposed earlier, that, it kind of takes the place of the third hour of Raw. Yeah, in theory, it makes sense to expand Raw Talk to kind of fill what the third hour of Raw would be. But the problem is they have less to talk about, expanding to an hour with just shit and fucking garbage thrown in here. The interviews are one thing, I'll watch those. But the commercials, the replays, Sam Roberts' fucking top 5, who gives a shit? This is why I don't really watch the pre-shows and all the other shows that WWE does, pre- and post-pay-per-views aside from the press conferences. That's the only thing they really do that's worth a damn as far as the digital content is concerned with that sort of stuff. The interviews, the original content I enjoy. The talking head bullshit, it's all just bullshit. You know, I don't really understand the point of doing an hour-long Raw talk. I really don't. There was something else I was going to say, but I just completely forgot. But we'll get into it here. They open up the episode recapping the main event, Gunther beating Sami Zayn to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. We hear from Sheamus and Jackie Redmond backstage. Sheamus says that he did not realize how much Pete Dunne hated that Butch name when he bestowed it upon him a couple of years ago. But he heard a lot about him when he brought him into the Brawling Brutes back in 2022. And as of Monday's Raw, he has since graduated, Pete Dunne that is, from the Banger Academy, following the showing that he had in that match despite the loss. And he says, long live Pete Dunne. And he also says that Pete Dunne earned his respect and calls him a tough bastard. They replay the Bad Blood highlights, the same video package that they opened Raw with. Skip through that. Who cares? Already saw that on Raw. Actually, skipped through it on Raw. I would say I skipped through it on Raw, but I actually watched Raw this week live. So I couldn't really skip through, which was typically I don't watch Raw live. I usually watch it on delay so I can skip through the bullshit, but I did not skip it. I did not watch it on delay this week. I couldn't skip it, so there was that. They hype up Cody Rhodes versus Gunther and Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan for the Crown Jewel Championship matches. Who cares? At Crown Jewel next month. We hear from Io Sky and Kairi Sane backstage. This was another Raw Talk exclusive interview. So again, they're bunching the .com interviews with the Raw Talk interviews. And now they're not even putting the Raw Talk interviews on their YouTube channel. At least as far as I know as of right now. Io Sky says that they will take back control and they take back the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. And Kairi Sane essentially says the same thing, saying that they will win the WWE Women's Tag Team titles next week on Raw. Okay. In the studio, they preview Bianca and Jade versus Damage Control for the WWE Women's Tag titles on next week's Raw. They air the video package for Randy Orton versus Javon Evans on tonight's NXT in St. Louis. Also previewing Obafemi versus Tony D'Angelo for the NXT North American Championship. And the tag team title match with Fraxium taking on E-Town Down Under for the NXT tag team titles. And the 6-woman tag team match with the aforementioned Jade and Bianca teaming with Kalani Jordan against Fatal Influence. Why are we fucking talking about NXT on Raw Talk? Again, this is just an excuse to expand or pad the show out. Who cares? They replay Jey Uso beating Xavier Woods to retain the Intercontinental Championship. We hear Xavier Woods and Kofi backstage. They're not really interviewed. We just kind of see their backstage segment, which probably would have aired on Raw, but they put it on their YouTube channel instead. Xavier Woods says that he didn't shake Jey's hand because he's tired of it always being on him. Why does he always have to do stuff for other people? To him, that doesn't make sense. Kofi says that he should have helped out his friend Jey Uso. Jey Uso would have done the same for him. And Xavier says, listen, I don't really know what we're doing anymore. You called me the quarterback, but I was making my play. You didn't approve of it. I don't really know what we're doing at this point. Easily the best thing on this episode of Raw Talk. They preview Kofi and Braun for next week, Braun Breaker, but they don't really talk about that match. They more so talk about Xavier Woods' actions. We hear from American Made backstage. They were not on Raw this week, so I'm not really sure why they were interviewed, but Chad Gable says they're feeling great after he beat Kofi Kingston last week. America needs a hero. Julius Creed says that Chad Gable puts the U in USA, and Chad says that he sees gold in the future of the Creed brothers. We also hear from the Final Testament. Karrion Kross says that he feels bad for The Miz because he does not get the respect that he deserves. And he also feels like he hasn't really gotten involved, as some people say that he has. He asks Scarlett and Paul Ellering and the authors of Pain, saying, have I gotten involved? And they all say no. And he says, I just want to make sure everyone gets along. And as I've said before, I like the whole devil on your shoulder character for Karrion Kross. I think he plays it really, really well. They replay the top 7 slams of the night. Again, who gives a shit? We hear from Jey Uso with Jackie Redmond. Again, this was one of those clips they already put up on their YouTube channel. Jey Uso says that Xavier has been battling something. He doesn't know what it is, but he's been battling something. He says that Braun Breaker showed his true colors by attacking him on Raw, and he promises to run it back soon. And he also promises to be on NXT tonight in St. Louis because his girl, Sexy Red's going to be there. Who gives a fuck about Sexy Red? No thanks. But Jey Uso will be on NXT tonight. And then to close out the show here, they replay the main event, Gunther beating Sami Zayn. And they also go over to Sam Roberts' top 5. Seth Rollins, I don't know if this is any particular order, but I think it is. 5 Rollins, 4 Breaker, 3 Cross, 2 Gunther, 1 Dominic Mysterio. Mostly baby faces, mostly heels except for Rollins. Again, I don't really give a fuck about Sam Roberts' top 5. So here we are. Yeah, it would be one thing if they, what I was going to say earlier that I just remembered. It would be one thing if they promoted Raw Talk, which I don't think they did. Maybe they did and I didn't see it, I don't know. It would be one thing at the end of Raw, and they used to, they just don't anymore, if they flashed the graphics saying, hey, listen, we'll hear from this person on Raw Talk. And again, they used to take the show more seriously by promoting it on Raw. You would never even fucking know they have a post-show recap show on Peacock after Raw because they never fucking promote it on Raw. So again, if you're not going to promote it, then it's not really like the third hour of Raw like you think it, like you want it to be. I don't know, man. Raw Talk, 57 minutes, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, holy fucking shit. And even though I fast-forwarded through the commercials and the replays, it still took me like 30 minutes, 35 minutes. There were like 20 minutes worth of bullshit on this show. Between the commercials and all the nonsense. It still took me like 30 to 35 minutes to watch this episode. I don't know if I can do that weekly. I might wrap up these Raw Talk reviews and with it the SmackDown Lowdown reviews, which are more bearable because they're shorter, but they really should not be. Why are they different lengths? Raw's 2 hours, SmackDown's 2 hours. Why would Raw Talk be longer? I'm sure they'll stay with this format. I would love to see it go back to being fucking 20 minutes next week. I don't think it will, though. And with that, I might have to wrap up these reviews and not review these shows anymore. It doesn't really matter. Again, if anyone who listens to these reviews, you're not really missing much when you don't tune into Raw Talk, and you probably listen to me rant about it, so you don't have to watch it, but you're not really missing much anyway. You're missing even less when they do this fucking format. So we'll see. Starting next week, I'll probably watch it. I might watch it for the remainder of the year and then turn it off in 2025. We'll see. I've been reviewing it for 4 years now for both brands, and it's gotten to a point where I can only watch so much. I might have to throw in the towel, so we'll see. Thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, folks. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.